Hi folks, welcome back to the farm. Today it's time for another session with Ben, and today we're talking all about hedges and edges and a whole bunch of other farm goodness. So stick around and we'll take a look at what's going on down at the far field. I mean, this is basically going to remain pretty much as it is. As far as managing hedges, is there, I know you say leave it as late as possible.
Yes.
I mean, with what we've got here, if we can hold on until we've got the goats, that'll help. But are we every year? Is that the best way? Or could you do every other?
In terms of what, trimming?
Yeah.
I mean, you can trim every year, but why would you trim when, look at them, laden with food?
Yeah.
For our wildlife. I mean, and there we are, desperately wanting manicured hedges across the whole of the countryside, of which they have absolutely no habitat value at all.
No.
I mean, you know, one of our birds in big decline at the moment, we're not quite sure why, is song thrush. And song thrush don't like tight hedges, and they like the occasional branch sticking out that they can perch on.
Yeah.
And sing and that sort of thing. So I'm a big fan of, even if you've got 10 hedges on the farm, then split them up and some cut every year.
Yeah.
Wait for the berries to be eaten. And linnet, for instance, love a tight, thick hedge.
Oh, I see. So keep it varied.
So keep it varied. And then you have ones that you do every 2 years, and then some that you do every 3 years. And that way you've got diversity of your hedgerow species as well. So you've got yellowhammers and our red list species, and things. And if you can let the bottoms of the hedges, exactly like you've got there, just do what they
tumble out a bit.
Yeah, our native snakes, our grass snake and our adders. Not so much adders; they much prefer stonier ground, but certainly grass snakes would love all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But also our ground nesting birds, partridge, pheasant, and I appreciate both of them are brought in. But the grey partridge is, of course, our English species. I'll talk about pheasant, but certainly grey partridge, on native partridge, ground nesting birds, that sort of thing. So there's lots of things that like that habitat.
Yeah.
We've seen an explosion in all sorts of things around our farm, leaving these grassy margins and just a little bit of scrub here and there.
And is there this one's fenced the other side, so we don't need to do anything. Is there a sort of a magic number as far as what you would let sit wild at the edge?
I think that's. I mean, I think bigger farmers should leave more. If I'm honest, if you've got more land, then you've got more land.
We saw one of yours had that strip where you could drive the tractor down to trim. I mean, it was like a proper.
We have 6 metre margins around every hedgerow at home.
Yeah.
But I mean, even if you give them a metre at the bottom, is far better than none, because every part of nature is the interfaces where everything goes absolutely bananas. If you think about it, so the interface of a woodland to an arable field is right on the edge, from even the deep ocean to the beach. If you look where all life is, it's all concentrated right on the shoreline and not that far out. And it's the same as everything. So if we can just provide that little bit of what I call hedges and edges, a little bit of that, it's
bumper.
Massively important. The interface.
And it's far easier to maintain if you're away a little bit anyway, because mowing in tight would be a nightmare.
We put some electric fence out yesterday afternoon at home, and I have never seen so many bright orange mice, harvest mice, scampering around. It was just one of those things that even my children were like, they're getting well into what we're doing, and they're like, oh my, look how many we got. And I was like, yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah. It was just like, wow, You give the nature a chance, and it's amazing how she responds.
You've almost seen all of it.
Yep.
Should we be considering a couple of cows or not?
Of course.
So we're not going to be over pushing it.
No,
or just reduce the sheep number.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, what you find is farming a happy medium. I mean, you'll also have boom and bust years because of Mother Nature. Yeah. But actually, what animals do more than anything, as long as you manage them correctly and move them and do exactly what you should be doing, which is where you're going and where you're heading, they build soil.
Yeah. And I imagine cows do that better than anything else.
Yeah. These are really important, the rushes and things, that occasionally you put an animal through them.
Oh, okay.
Again, it's an interface.
Yeah.
A little bit, before you know it, the rushes will have turned into willow trees, and willow trees will have, and everything that was has gone.
Yeah.
And succession's fine if that's where you want it to go, but of course succession in nature actually happens with animal impact. So one day, in actual fact, just as this was just making a move away, whether it's Africa and elephants have gone through, or bison and buffalo in Americas, or in the UK, something's gone through, deer and bears as we used to have in the UK, gone through, destroyed it and put it back and changed it.
Yeah.
And it's those sort of things that we need to just remember, that actually nature is continuously moving.
Yeah, yeah.
So actually, even if you do something on the cows and it looks horrific, or your sheep, you know what?
It'll bounce back.
It's just changed the way it was going to evolve then.
Yeah. What are the cows like as far as grazing? Are they quite selective?
Not really. They've just got a different way of grazing than sheep, which is why obviously we talk about the flurd.
I've mentioned it twice and not.
Oh, sorry.
So you explain it. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, the flurd is a concept, essentially a flock and a herd. So you take why would you manage all animals in different paddocks separately? That means it's a lot of hard work checking on them all, and a lot of potentially a lot of electric fencing and all of that sort of thing to do. Whereas what we do generally at home is have the cattle, the sheep, the goats, the alpacas, and even the pigs during certain times of the year, all in one giant flurd.
Yeah.
Very easy to manage. And
do they graze better because it hits everything, or?
Yeah, they graze. The cattle like longer grass and longer plants that they can wrap their tongues around and eat. The sheep nibble. The goats take away the woody growth. The pigs, believe it or not, graze an awful lot of grass.
Yeah, they do. Like when we were moving them every 3 or 4 days, they would just...
They love it.
Just like sheep.
People don't think they can live on it. Well, if you go and watch wild boar in the wild...
Yeah. I think for us, because we are having to buy all of our feed in, which is one of my quick questions as well.
Yeah.
What are our steps to reducing feed bills with the pigs in particular?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we can try and tie in with a dairy or a brewery or whatever, but as far as that, we've got land, but we can't start really doing anything too arable, because how do you harvest if you only do an acre of beans and peas or whatever? Like, are there options for...
You can get little push-along harvesters.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and corn harvesters and all sorts of things. If you go on Alibaba and places like that, that's the website. That's really cool. Yeah, I know a couple of people over in North Hereford have got a single row push-along maize harvester.
No way.
Yeah.
So this is the conversation we were having this morning. Joe was like, "Can you get like a mini combine that goes behind a tractor?" Like, but I didn't realise. Yeah.
And of course, you could buy a reaper header binder that used to be towed by horses, and when the horses were replaced with tractors, they just put a drawbar on them, towed them by tractors.
And that's doing what? That's cutting
combining.
or just taking... Okay.
So that basically combines, cuts, puts it down, puts it into sheaves and spits out the sheaves, and then you can thrash them after. But you can buy, if so be it, a little 10-foot combine for next to nothing.
Because it's prohibitive, and that's probably why. Where we've just bought the pig arts from, they were getting out of it because they just said the feed. If you're buying pelleted feed, it's just insane.
Yeah,
how do you get that sort of balanced feed if you're trying to grow it yourself? Do you just have to get a dietitian there, or is it a bit of common sense?
Bit of common sense. I mean, we grow at home boats, which is a mixture of beans and oats. Harvest them together, and then mill them. You've got protein and carbohydrate, and then with all the other things they're eating, like the grasses and like roots and things like that, it's more than enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. We feed that to pigs and chickens. Now, of course, we have the brewery, so we have all the brewing waste. So our feed bill's almost zero now.
Yeah.
I think the beauty of farming is, if you're standing still, you're not actually moving forward. if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You've got to keep thinking, what's the solution to this? And sometimes it means stepping right back away from the farm and having a really good, think it's...
And unless it's forestry, you've always got a quick feedback as far as if it's not working one year, you just change it the next. It's not like you're planting a forest and you...
No, I mean, there are certain... I mean, cows, the beauty of sheep, like you've seen, you know, they lamb in January or April, and 5-6 months later you've got lambs for sale.
Yeah.
Cows are a bit different. I mean, they're 24 to 30 months. So that's more of a long term. But when they start, obviously, if you've got a small suckler herd, once you start selling the progeny off, then of course that's a continuous line of cows and calves. And I think it's important, we talked about diversity quite a lot today, and the diversity of having longer term projects and shorter term projects. Some of them coming together in 6 months, like your lambs and your pigs, whereas some longer term, like the cows or some apple trees, fruit trees, are more of your long term gains and things like that.
Back to hedges.
Yes.
Obviously, we said they're really important as far as wildlife and also just creating boundaries and shelter.
Yeah.
You lay your hedges traditionally.
Yes.
Some hedges are just not designed, like these just wouldn't ever be laid, would they?
Well, they should be, but the problem is, and actually that has been laid. So if we go up here, you can see where it was laid probably 40, 50 years ago. So you can see that's probably the best place to see it. So once upon a time, this was growing upright. They cut through, back pleached, laid it down, all the new growth comes up.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but then like all trees, and trees are very much designed a trunk, greenery at the top.
Yeah.
And what you're having here is a tree with the greenery at the top. So really and truthfully, this hedge should be left for 10 years now to go straight up, and you'd lay it again.
And that was fine if you own both sides of the hedge.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
So what I'd probably do is run a fence about here and let that grow out and in. What's happened here, something, don't know whether it's your sheep, but something's grazing this.
Yeah, they probably have been,
Yeah. So what they do is take a lot of the bottom out of the hedge.
Yeah.
And it tells you as well that the sheep aren't perfectly nutritionally balanced if they're eating this.
No, when they get to a bit of hedge and we allow that, they're obviously deficient in something because they go straight for certain leaves.
So a free choice mineral bar, that cocktail bar is something that certainly helps solve those problems.
Yeah.
When you share hedges, there's not a lot, unless you have a chat with your neighbour next door and say, any chance you want to leave that, go up and we'll lay it.
Yeah.
That would have been done.
You'd have to leave it several years.
That would need to go up for probably 10.
Yeah.
You have a few rabbits.
Oh, it's just, this is, all the way along.
Yeah. I think we've lost intimacy with farming and soil and farm business. We've also become ridiculously specialists, either, specialist livestock growers, fruit growers, whatever. And that was all done to de-risk. In actual fact, did the opposite.
Yeah.
Created the greatest risk.
It's a bit like when we were looking around your vineyard and you were saying if you only had one grape variety, it's kind of the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
Spread it all out.
Yeah, so actually, so the way to de-risk is cover yourself in businesses and enterprises and everything you can possibly think. And generally, they all work very well together when you get the thing going. We've fed our fleurs just recently on nothing but willow.
Really?
They're in a paddock similar to this, and every day we take a chainsaw and go and cut a bough down or a tree. We've got a huge pond that's been overtaken by ginormous ones, and slowly pollarding it. They drop.
How much do they leave then? Do they take the twiggy stuff as well?
They do, and take a lot of the bark. Yeah. And then we get a machine in to come and actually process it into firewood. And we use some as our own firewood. It's like I say, it's not great with the calorific value, but if it's for your own, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
We make some biochar with it and charcoal. So
how biochar is then what ground and then spread out?
Yeah, we actually put it in a giant concrete mixer with a load of like skittle balls, bowling alley balls, so it smashes it all into like a fine powder.
So over the course of the past few videos, a few people have asked, what have we done in the last 12 months since we filmed these? Since we filmed with Ben, what have we taken on board and what have we changed? Well, obviously the new fencing had to go in, but you can see a little bit here where those hedges are now protected at the bottom. They've really filled out, and we can just now trim the tops as and when we need to. So that has been a major change. We're seeing kind of green all the way down to the floor, and that's really nice, and it just means that those sort of field boundaries look nicer, they're denser, and there's more wildlife able to use those. So there's a few other bits which we're going to be sharing in the next video or in a future video, and there is one more install with Ben, but we have got a couple of different topics to cover in the next week or two, and we'll be sharing those soon, including Joe getting eaten alive by a goat and some new additions to the farm. New additions, always a good thing. Thanks for watching, take care, and we'll see you next time.